Hi everyone, welcome to another one of the Becoming Limitless show. Today is particularly exciting for me because I think in a way I've manifested this. I really wanted the first guest to be my next guest. I don't think she needs a lot of introduction, but I'm super excited to have today with me Dr. Cherine.
Super excited
now,
to be here.
We've connected in so many different cycles, events, talks and things like that. And there's always been synergy. So I was very keen and I'm super grateful you had the time and you've accepted to be here today.
Thank you.
So we can have a little chat about the stuff that we're passionate about. So the wellness craze, everything that is happening around us, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you think that too, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So, but I think it's also, there's a lot of noise, right? So I make it kind of one of my main purpose is to try to kind of demystify, make it simple, stuff that we can kind of make sense of and approach it in a logical way. There's so much information about lots of things.
Yes.
And I've heard you many times speaking about how, take a step back, focus on the things that are important. And because of your background and what you've done, you always look at things very holistically from every aspect, which I personally have not seen here in the region. So I think one of the many reasons that you are unique is that the way you approach it from a spiritual, mental, physical, scientific way is incredible for me. I try to do that, but obviously I'm not a physician, so I approach it from a slightly different angle. And being in this for decades and decades, it's a lot of trial and error too. And obviously with a lot of learning that I try to do, learning for people like yourself and many others, it helped me to work on myself and as a result worked on the people around me and I love it. So I wanted today to have a little chat about stuff that are happening in my head and hopefully they will sync with yours. And the idea here is I want to try to do in 30 minutes like a little touch up on a few things, right? So I try to make sense of my own wellness journey, how I was able to turn back my biological age, even though the whoop does not love me right now. For some reason, it's only giving me 8 years younger. But my DNA says I'm 17 years younger. So, but it's going to get there, hopefully. So I did that by following your advice, by looking at things very holistically, So every aspect.
Yes.
And I think one of the key things that people miss, instead of coming to the latest gadget or the latest treatment, is starting with your spiritual, psychological part, right?
Completely.
So I made
Starting to flow, it's resonating.
Yes, right? Yeah.
Yes, completely.
So starting with that, and then everything else will fit in, will fall into place. So, I have a little structure that I kind of follow when I'm working with people, sometimes in my talks and training and workshops and stuff like that. And, I call it SRDT. And S stands for strain because you hear me talking about hormesis and light stressors and the ability to push yourself beyond your comfort zone and how comfort can sometimes be a terrible thing for us, right?
Yes.
And then the R is for recovery. I'm all about recovery because I think most of us don't recover enough. I know for a fact how hard you work.
Yes.
And if you're anything like me, you struggle to find time to recover. And I don't mean resting and putting your feet
like
up.
proper recovery.
Yeah, right? And then defend is the D. And by defend, I mean the environment where we are, the things we interact with, every person we shake hands with, every door handle, every elevator button, the air that we breathe, the dust, the AC, everything is interacting with we are one, right?
Yes.
With everything.
Yeah.
So, if we do not have a strong immunity, if we don't have a strong system, we're always going to struggle. And I see it, and I hope you agree, that we're always walking a thin line. So the body is constantly winning and losing battles throughout the day, throughout the time that it exists.
Yes.
From that aspect. And then the last one is when you thrive, when you begin to make movements where you feel truly good about yourself from the strain, from the recovery, from defending well and having a strategy. So then that ability to live not as a patient, not as someone who suffers, not as someone who is waiting for the body to break down, not to be a 50, 60 years old and feeling that I need to give up because my time is done. Someone who thrives, that means they are happy mentally, spiritually, physically, and nothing is stopping them from doing whatever they want to do.
Yes.
So I wanted you to give me your opinion on this. We haven't really spoken about this before, so I'm sorry putting you on the spot, but I really wanted to see you telling me, this is not, I don't like it, or hopefully you'll tell me opposite. What do you think?
My neurons are firing up so quick that I'm trying to just articulate the so many thoughts that are, going on in my head. As you activated that, you said, yes,
Oh,
completely.
Wow. Oh, I'm glad. I'm so glad.
Yeah, and it's a cycle, right? So it begins and ends with all of that. So you need to strain, and then you need to recover, and defense mechanism is very important so that you can thrive. It's like the ingredients that fall so that you actually want to thrive.
Right.
So it's very, and I was just thinking that super important for us to thrive, to want to thrive.
Yeah.
So you can't thrive if you don't want to thrive.
Right.
And you have to understand what are the ingredients that are required for you to actually attain that goal first.
Correct. Yeah.
And so when you do understand what thriving looks, feel, and tastes like for you in a formless manner, so when we say, how do you thrive, right? And like, picture your perfect day or your perfect life. Most people find it hard to actually dream about this, or actually manifest this, or put a format to that. And it's like a book perfect. Mostly I want to run in the morning at 6 and I want to have a best family, want to look great. But if you really dig deep, thriving could look completely different for each and every one of us, right?
True.
It could be so different in color and form, and in terms of career, in terms of ambition, and in terms of pace,
Right.
because some thrive on slower pace, but others thrive on a more quicker, more executive, more performance pace. So it's,
But the foundation of all of this, though, is the shell that you operate from,
yes.
right? If that shell is not thriving, a lot of this is not possible, right?
Yes.
This is what I kind of found myself.
Completely.
Is that the moment that your body, your biology is off, everything else is off.
yes.
I've heard this somewhere, and I've repeated it several times. I've just stolen it and started talking about it. How your biology dictates your reality.
Yes.
So unfortunately, when you hear the word thrive, as you said, immediately you go for financial gain, or it's not. We don't
Yes.
all think in the way you do,
Completely.
as far as how
Yes.
true thriving means.
Yes.
So I love hearing you say that.
So it's so important to understand that the body, and when we say the body, we're not just doing a regressional thought about just the physiology and biology of things, but the body is like your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, and your etheric, energetic, spiritual body,
Right.
However you want to
Yes,
call
yes,
it, feel it,
absolutely.
resonate with it. This body, which is the sum of all bodies, has to be aligned with your truest truth.
Right.
And it has to be aligned with your soul purpose.
Right.
And for you to thrive in that vehicle of a body, you need to understand how this body or vehicle functions.
Right.
It's super important to understand how each aspect functions, and what does each aspect of your vehicle require of you to be aware of, to understand, and to commit to in order for that vehicle to deliver its purpose in the soul curriculum.
If you say thrive to anyone,
Yes.
they understand the word. You say like your body is optimal, all of that. And when you ask them, do you think your body is optimal? Most people will say yes, unless they clearly feel that, let's say, I don't know, their lower body, or they have, bloating, or they wake up sluggish in the morning, or all of that stuff. Beyond that, they feel okay. And for them, for most people, that's thriving. That means I am not bedridden. I am not in pain. I'm not sick. And therefore, I'm thriving. That's not thriving, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that.
Are you completely fulfilled when you wake up in the morning? Do you feel so energetic that this energy is enough for you to create, co-create, and fulfill your highest purpose and potential today? If not, then you want to look at your definition of thriving.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and it's physical. So that performance can be, running after your children, or that could be, competing, or that could be doing with what you have to do in your job. But it has to have the physical energy for you, that battery filled properly, so that you can exhaust that energy physically.
And I feel you fill that battery through what I was talking about.
Yes, completely.
You need to put yourself under stress.
This is the framework.
Right?
There's no other framework.
Thanks. Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
Really, you have simplified it. In Arabic, we say sahal mumtana. It's so simple, and then makes complete sense.
Yes.
And if you kind of follow that model and make sure that you understand that you are doing enough strain. So if you want to break it down, it's putting yourself in uncomfortable physical challenges that will activate your longevity genes. So that will activate those codes of genetics that are embedded within your DNA that push you to clean the waste come with your life and age and lifestyle and everything. So I would give a scientific example for that.
Please.
Of course, you talk about working out and moving and pushing your body to the limits. We need to push our bodies not too much, just the right amount. So in order to create a small kind of inflammation, to allow a muscle to come and recover itself so that it forms more muscle mass, for example. Or we need to push our bodies to a limit where the circulations become so intense that the oxygenation of the tissues, the pushing the blood through the finest arteries is there, and the capillaries.
Right.
And then you're oxygenating all your tissues and your heart and all your skin and etc. Your brain and everything you need, really.
Yes, exactly.
And when you do things like cold and heat therapy, so that is, sauna followed by a cold plunge or a cryotherapy session or whatever technology that you really, feel like you want to use. And then this is proven to, first, it's not comfortable at all. Have you tried to, I'm sure you tried to do this.
Yeah.
This is a challenge. You need to be connected with your breath. You need to understand how you navigate pain and all of that.
The body doesn't like it. The body doesn't like it. The body doesn't want you to be there.
Yeah. So putting yourself in that intentionally with that breath, it activates those longevity genes. And if you stay in your comfort zone, stiffness becomes the parallel and the synonym of aging.
Yes.
And that flexibility that you want to gain through, like the caterpillar, through breaking things, right? It's no longer there.
Yeah.
So we need to put ourselves physically in uncomfortable situations willingly before the body pushes you to put yourself in uncomfortable situation and recover, to go back to a baseline that's not your initial baseline.
Right.
Like, in a way, don't wait until you need to break to fix yourself. I like the Japanese art and all, but like in the body, it's better not to follow that method
but I mean,
if you can prevent it.
But that's it. I mean, it depends how you look at that, because it also can mean, where you are causing trauma to your muscle in order for something better to be filled.
Yes, in that perspective, yes. But don't get to a point where fixing the vase, for example, is like too much.
You overload your system.
You end
up going on the other
the
side.
other side of the
where
inflammation.
your sleep gets affected, you're always tired, even
Yes.
though you look fit, but you are on the other side where your body is not able to keep up.
Yeah.
And this is where I deal with so many people in that stage. I have these awesome, like, people that achieve so much that if you see them, what they do in the gym or how they live their lives, they're incredible, incredibly fit. But when I do like the simplest of tests, such as blood test or a bioresonance test, oh my God, they get into an absolute shock. They come in so bold about, oh, because I work out, I do this, and then you end up finding all sorts of things. Inflammation is all
Especially
over the place.
gut inflammation.
Yeah, everywhere.
I think it's the hidden saboteur
Yeah.
of performance and of performers.
Yeah.
So if you overperform, you're actually putting yourself in a lot of inflammation if you're not recovering properly.
Yeah.
And on the long run, you're not doing yourself a service. So
Right.
it's very important to understand your limit of strain. So strain is a very balanced state.
Right.
It's not a state where I want to overdo and overachieve without
Exactly.
balancing it with a proper recovery. Because the gut gets inflamed, our stress hormones get secreted too much that we can put ourselves in uncomfortable, positions when it comes to the
Especially
organs
for
and
ladies,
healing.
right?
Yeah,
PCOS
especially
and
for
other
women.
stuff. I mean, there's
Especially
so
for
many-
women, especially.
So many
It's a
issues
havoc.
with that. Yeah.
I would really be very careful whenever I'm recommending how to train for my women clients or patients. I like to call them customers or clients
Yeah.
because mostly they're not sick. And having that balance with the hormonal phases of her life, wherever she is super important because women are much more sensitive to
Yeah.
these. Men can work out more to this
Yeah.
inflammatory cycle.
Yes. Yes. The endocrine
Completely.
system, I think,
Yes.
works in a very different
Yeah,
way.
it has its feminine way.
Yeah.
So also, we're not saying she shouldn't push herself into, a zone 4 training or high intensity interval training. Yes, but in the right days, with the right, a gradual way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think that it affects both sexes in the same way.
Yes.
But when it comes to the cycles, when it comes to women,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder. And it's very difficult, as far as my limited knowledge, obviously a lot more on this, to bounce back and to become regular and to manage your hormones in a certain way. So in stress in general, and there's a point here I want to kind of talk about a little bit because, part of what frustrates me about, the wellness awakening, as we were talking about earlier, is that sometimes people take it to extremes.
Yes.
If we're doing an ice bath and you're doing it at 4 degrees, no, I'm going to do it at 1. I'm going to go swim in a frozen lake for 2 hours. This is not the stressors that we're talking about, right? So certain people can train to do extreme things, but they usually do them under supervision and there's a whole plan around them and all of that. So for us to compete for social media is not the stress that we're talking about, right?
Not at
So we're
all.
talking about mild stressors that
Yes.
are meant to challenge you from a physical perspective.
Yes.
And then there's the whole other side of things where you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, where you face stuff you don't want to face,
Yes.
where you say no when no is appropriate and not always yes, when, that sort of thing. So stressors don't always come in, I feel bad about this because I'm causing myself harm either through water or heat or whatever, workouts, HIIT exercises, whatever it is. It's more also, I think, for me especially, is on the psychological aspect of
Completely.
things, right?
Yes.
So when you stress yourself that way, it's the only way to grow.
Yes.
Question yourself. We were talking about imposter syndrome, for example. Accept it, embrace it. Be as true as you can to yourself. I think having that is for me a stressor, and it helps me to grow.
Yes.
So speaking about stuff like that, where I feel uncomfortable, or perhaps someone may judge me on it, or caring what other people think, all of that stuff, like most of us, I'm guessing.
Yes.
because we're all very selfish, right? We're all very self-centered in that way. It's a stressor for me, and it helps me to grow. I feel it. I feel it week after week. I feel it with the connections that I make with people, in the stuff that come out of my mouth. I feel it all the time. So when we say stressors, I know that you agree with this, is that spiritually, mentally, and physically, across the board, be it stuff that happens at work, your relationship with your spouse and the people that you care about.
For example, therapy is a great stressor because when you willingly go into a very uncomfortable position sitting in front of a therapist, those who know and done therapy know that it's not like a fun ride, but it's a great ride. So most of the people who ask me about therapy, and because everyone who comes to my office knows that I'm a huge believer of therapy, tell me, so I'm going to feel better. No, let's agree on something. You're probably going to feel worse before you feel better, because it is designed to open up shadow spaces or spaces you haven't looked for a long time. I always give this example. It's like you're visiting your first house. That is the childhood house, of course. And that has to do with the memories, our most hidden, painful traumas, because in the perception of the child, this is what is trauma to us is not, it's perhaps more to them, and vice versa. So visiting that is never fun. It's like you're cleaning a room you haven't opened for 30 years. You're probably going to find a lot of dust, a lot of smelly stuff, and
you want to see, you
don't want to see, that are going to erupt you with emotion. And standing still and believing, trusting that your ability to do that and to put light, again, to open that window, to let the toxic air out. You see, that seasonal cleanse, I would say, is so necessary.
It's cathartic, right? Yeah. So it's like a catharticism. You're letting it go and you feel freer, you know? And
much more aligned.
And you do this in smaller instances. It doesn't have to be a big deal.
Yes, it doesn't have to be that you actually go to a therapist. That helps when you're starting off, because it gets things better and in a momentum, and you connect to yourself and you understand when you journal how you kind of talk to yourself. But if you do the work, you can do it with books even. But if you do the work and commit to do the work, you're going to be able to see quantum messages. I call them whispers during your day that are going to realign you. And these are the end product of you putting yourself in a strained position. And that's the recovery.
It leads to that.
It leads to that. And thriving at the end.
Exactly. So they work well together. So when we're talking about strain, we're not, just to be clear, we're not just talking about the physical strain, even though that's super important for every aspect. We're also talking about things such as when it comes to diet. That's part of the strain, right?
Yes, of course.
So fasting is an amazing strain as far as I'm concerned. So these are the things that I kind of, I practice myself, be it on a mental perspective or physical perspective, and then on a gut, which is, you and I have a complete alignment on that, on how important it is in the center of everything. Another stressor would be to go on a diet, you know, be it whatever the fast is, not go on a diet, I want to say fasting. So whatever the fast is, what works for you, and there are so many out there and all of that. I'm not sure if it would be a good idea for us to go through all of that today. But I think when someone asks me, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but what I normally say to people is that find the one that works for you. There is literature out there that gives certain information on each, and find the one that works best for you. But at the end of the day, unless you try it yourself, you're not going to see the reaction on your body. Some will say, I can't do 3 days. Should I do it twice a year, once a month? Do I do intermittent fasting? All of these different, approaches, fads, whatever you want to call them. One thing that is true, that I found to be true in every paper, in everything that I looked at, is that fasting can cause the body to become better. That's what I know.
Right? This is scientific. It's the first approved anti-aging or longevity intervention that works. This is science. Okay, so we know that fasting or fasting mimicking diets actually put your body in a state of rejuvenation.
Mm-hmm.
So for sure, yes. But fasting can be rejuvenating or a wreck, and
Right.
depending on the context. So where are we departing from? Are we departing from a system that is overridden, that is already in inflammation, that is living the modern day stressors, eating processed food, sleep deprived, and already in chaos inside the gut from all of these, extra noise and no planning and all of that? If we put fasting on top of that, then this is a recipe for disaster. But if someone is completely aligned and informed, they actually have a good conversation with their body, which means all their bodies, then they would know each intervention that they want to go into, what it brought to them.
Right.
And they're going to be able to decide if this was too much or this is the right amount. So you're your best doctor if you actually figure out what is the key to unlock the code of communication with your body.
Awesome. I like that a lot. So I think you and I can talk for days about all of this. Literally, this is without a joke, so it's incredible about, how we vibe off each other and how we're kind of continue, or extend each other's thoughts, which is awesome. But what I want to move on to defend, because I'll tell you why.
Yes.
So,
I like defend.
I am focusing a lot more on diagnostics at the moment. So I use oligoscan, I use, Zyto, I use bioresonance, all of the tests that are there from a genetic, epigenome, all of that, microbiome and so on and so on. And you see so many of them in the market at the moment, and everyone is doing it in one way or the other.
Yes.
So for me, I like to simplify it. I know that the ones that I do myself, that I've seen results in, and these are the ones I'm always open to try something new. So I try to include the ones that I feel is solid, genome, epigenome, great, microbiome, great. Also, it depends on where you're doing it, which lab, all of that. But I love VO2 max tests, for example. That's another. So you said fasting. Another one that is directly linked to longevity and overall
physiological
wellness,
age.
Physiologically is VO2 max.
Yes.
So I do that, and I do that with people. And then I like tests that I can do easily. That's why I like oligoscan. I like
the oligoscan a lot.
Yeah, right? So oligoscan, for those that don't know what it is basically minerals, vitamins, and
heavy metals
and
it
oxidative
shows you
stress,
how
right?
how your liver is detoxing. And
right.
it's very important to understand that anyone can get these gadgets.
Right.
They're widely available,
right.
you can order them even if you're not a physician.
Yeah.
It is an operator dependent test. We talked about this.
Yes.
It means that the test is as good as the one reading and interpreting the test.
Of course.
So I'm just very quickly going to say, so the oligo gives you like your mineral chart,
yes.
right? And sometimes you would see low sulfur, low iodine, low magnesium, low zinc, and sometimes you can see a bit of a higher zinc. And it has nothing to do with your actual levels.
Yes.
But it has everything to do from a reader's perspective, from a doctor's perspective, from an interpreter's perspective. How is the body moving? Like, is this a gut that is absorbing well? Are we looking at patterns of inflammation?
Right.
Where is the body heading if it continues in that chart? And I've read probably tens of thousands of oligoscan throughout my career. And trust me when I tell you, it becomes a point where I look at it, I could see the pattern where the body is moving. And it comes with experience.
Yeah.
So please be very careful who's interpreting those tests. They're amazing technology, but don't simplify it to a point where, we just say what isn't very accurate.
So a deficiency is not something that you just supplement. You have to understand why did that happen in the first place?
I mean, a supplement is not going to fix a bad foundation.
No, exactly.
And
right.
Also...
Or leaky gut or all of that stuff, right?
The supplement is not going to fix your bad foundation, and your supplement are as good as your digestion.
Exactly.
So if we don't fix the root cause, we can use the supplements to fix the root cause, but there are so many pathways to fix the root cause that could not include supplements for some people who do not want to invest or don't have that disposable income for it.
Yeah.
Just with food, with bone broth, with you know, a lot of, you know, ancestral, basic, beautiful, easy stuff, we can actually heal our gut.
I use Yensun, for example.
I like Yensun.
For bloating and stuff like that. So that we have so much in this region that we could use for our own benefit in wonderful ways. And I try to shed light on that, and I know that you do too, because we have an amazing wisdom, you know, centuries old that we've been, you know, having access to. Even our spices, we put stuff in our food that are meant to offset, because we know, let's say, beans or chickpeas or whatever, we put the right spices with them to offset what it does to our gut instinctively. So I didn't know why my mother was using cumin, for example, on
chickpeas.
Chickpeas or flava beans or whatever it is. But later on, all of a sudden you realize, you know what I mean?
Yes,
so
and the cinnamon.
Yes,
cinnamon cuts your appetite. It's a great way to regulate the insulin trigger metabolism. I love cinnamon. It's like cinnamon is an anti-inflammatory
And the
spice.
whole region, cinnamon is used in everything.
Everything.
In
I use
rice,
cinnamon in everything.
In soups and everything, right? So going back quickly to the diagnostic. So what I was saying is that, so I like these quick ones because I'm able to do something about my health and then check again, right? And again, obviously, always holistically, because it's not just the number that matter, just like you put it much better than I did, that looking at the whole system. I know that if my sleep is poor, that means my metabolism is not great. If my metabolism is not great, that means mentally I'm not doing really well. If mentally I'm not doing well, I'm not exercising as well. So everything is one. And when I look at that, and when I look at the people that I work with, I look at that completely, you know, from a psycho-emotional aspect to what's happening in their lives, to changes in their jobs, to all of that stuff. And when I ask questions like this, they're almost always, and I think it happens with you too. I heard you say that before. They always kind of taken aback. Like, why are you asking me about my job? How did you know I had a new job? Like, what? Our new boss or this? And it's manifesting in your physical body rather than, you know. So bioresonance is one of those, because it gives me things such as mold in my body, all the toxic loads that we mentioned for oligoscan, but also the energetic aspect of the body, which I really, really like, because it makes it a little bit more complete for me. And it's really easy. Few minutes, you do it. So it's always a shock for everyone, including myself sometimes when I'm doing it on myself, where I feel, you know, I generally have a lot of energy. I do a lot. So when I do it, sometimes I'm surprised that my body is saying a different thing, and then adjusting, and then it makes perfect sense when you begin thinking about it and putting, you know, shedding light on it. You're able to do that, because another thing we were talking about earlier is that our bodies are constantly in a battle, right? So and there is no end game. It's a journey, just like everything else. And the body is always on a journey. It's always dealing with toxic loads. It's always dealing with new viruses, bacteria, existing ones, depleting ones. And it has to manage you, make sure that you are the mom that you want to be, you are the dad that you want to be, you are the employee that you want to be, the boss that you want to be, and so on. It's empowering you to do all of that while it's running all these battles on the side through your immune system.
Yes.
And we don't give enough, in my opinion, we do not give enough support to our immune system, because it's not a matter of fixing it when it's broken, like you were saying earlier. It's a matter of being resilient enough, which then leads directly to thriving.
Yes.
Resilient in your immunity, because it's not like now I have a virus, now I don't. You always have viruses. You always have, right?
There's actually two answers for that. Like not answers, but like two things that came in mind while you were talking. First thing, yes, we always have a virus, and shockingly, we always have a cancer cell that we're gonna get rid of or not.
Yeah.
So let me break this down in my
Please.
Mercurian mind. Mercury means data-driven mind. I'm an astrology fan. Most of the
nice.
people who follow me know that.
Yeah, I know that.
I tend to use planets to talk about archetypes. Anyway, so the equation is simple. We're going to talk about infections, but please extrapolate this for the entire health system.
Right.
So the equation of an infection is simple. Infections equals a virus or a bacteria or an aggressor. Let's call it an aggressor.
Right.
Plus your innate immune response. So if your innate immune response is strong enough, that aggressor is not gonna be able to give you a very intense, strong, sick kind of infection.
Right.
So it's an inversion.
It's not going to win the battle.
Yeah, it's not going to win the battle.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's inversely proportional or something like that.
Yes,
so
yes.
the more your immune system,
Yeah.
the more your innate intelligence is well defended, knows how to defend you, the less any aggressor, that it be a toxin or a virus, is going to actually put your system in a state of wreck.
Right.
Okay. That means I might not have control over things that come from the outside, but I have super control of the defensive mechanism that I can build on the inside. So let's break down what could, be part of the ingredients of that defensive mechanism of
That was
my
my next
immune system.
thing. Amazing. Yeah, good.
So, of course, gut health, sleep, that is your recovery. So everything we talked about, a bit of strain, a lot of care, a lot of recovery.
Full circle, right?
Yeah, that's a circle to get you to the point where your God-designed organism and vehicle that has the innate intelligence of recovering itself, like a baby does recover so swiftly, so quickly, restores this intelligence so profoundly that whatever aggressor comes, you're able to just kind of navigate that. And I'm not saying you might never get sick, but I'm saying even if you do fall under, is going to be very quickly and swiftly recovered because you have built this very intelligent. And this applies to all diseases, including cancer, autoimmune disease. And
mental health.
Yes. And
Alzheimer's
and
and other stuff.
All of it.
Yeah, right.
Because I've worked in cancer care for 5 years exclusively.
Right. I know
And that has changed the way I see medicine. I practice medicine. I look at medicine. I understand medicine. I digest medicine. I mean,
you always say food is medicine also, right?
Food is medicine, but it's something that changed. How you digest your emotions are also medicine. So it's not just
100%.
what you eat. Really, like mental, emotional health is now perhaps my biggest, I would say, vocation.
Yeah.
Other than food. So they come together.
Yeah, no,
One
100%.
doesn't replace the other.
I'm the
but
same,
it's
right?
what you absorb and what you digest, including how you stomach your emotions.
What you hear, what you watch, who you
It's
interact
everything
with.
you absorb.
The energy that
Everything.
is around you, the people
Yeah.
you interact with, if
Everything.
there's negativity, if people are sucking your energy, all of that comes
All of
together. Who you put yourself, what situations you put yourself
And you're responsible of that.
Yeah, 100%.
You are responsible of where you put yourself, who you interact with, how you respond to these interactions, and what they trigger in you. Do you shove them in under the carpet in that room where we had the other stuff?
Yeah.
Or are you going to open that window and release
let
that,
them
whether
go.
it be a cry or a shout or a workout?
Yeah.
However it resonates, release it.
Yeah. So for me, better immunity is better circulation.
Yes.
We're
Better
talking
food,
about
better sleep,
allowing
stress
the body to
management.
recover
Yes.
in maybe through hydration, through the right rest, the right movement, where you're doing active recovery and so on. So I know that we could talk about this forever, like you and I think hopefully in the future, if you have time again, maybe we could do some
Would love
little bit
to.
more on that.
Would love to.
And again, I am so grateful to have you here. And
I
as I
am
said, we
grateful
could speak
too.
forever. So thank you again.
Thank you, Eddie.
And I am so looking forward to see all the awesome things you're going to be doing.